Good evening, Lacrosse community. My name is Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. I'm so excited for our conversation today. AB and I connected because one of our past guests, Leah Willis, and as you know, it's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse to understand the skills that you gain from the sport and use it so that you can live the life that you want to live. Please help me welcome AB and let's listen to him as he shares how he got into lacrosse in the first place.
Hey, Ryan, how are you? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. You're doing great stuff with the Institute here. So I'm pretty pumped up and excited to participate with you guys tonight. I will kind of give you the thumbnail sketch of my entree into the game of lacrosse. I transferred schools junior year of high school. I went from a public school to a private school in New England. And it was actually our athletic director who didn't have enough boys to play on the team who suggested or voluntold me basically that I was going to be playing lacrosse. I had no idea what it was. I knew a couple of my buddies from football were also playing. So I got involved. I just fell in love with the game there. My dad was from upstate New York, so I knew a little bit about the game. But, you know, it wasn't to the exposure that it is today. From there, I went and I played at Providence College. I was the first African-American player to play in the history of the program back in the early mid-90s. So that was a great experience. And then from there, I transitioned a little bit into coaching. So I took a position as a graduate assistant at Fairfield University. And within the first week, Tom McClellan, who actually, I think he coached at Loyola, played and coached at Loyola, had resigned to go back to Loyola. And during the search for a coach, they had this 22-year-old kid that they said, hey, you're going to be our interim lacrosse coach. So as a Division I coach, yeah, it's kind of weird. For a very short period of time for the Fairfield Stags. We played in the Yale tournament, which was kind of neat, but it was a great experience. Then Ted Spencer came on. I kind of stayed with him for a little bit. And it was right around the time that the Gate brothers had started coaching on the women's side. That I got involved and started coaching the goalies on the women's team at Fairfield. And then went into youth coaching and had kind of been in youth and high school coaching ever since. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm currently one of the assistant coaches at Bishop McNamara High School in Forestville, Maryland. Go Mustangs. Hopefully have some of our team listening in on this, but I work with the coaching staff there, and it's been a great experience moving forward. So.
It's amazing that you can go from being voluntold and finding a sport, picking up, being the first African-American on the Providence team, which I didn't realize that's so amazing and so big, I think, for the sport moving forward of being a role model. I can imagine how that has a huge impact on everyone you coach from the start of your career to today. I'm sure you've had a lot of great moments, but do you have one or two pinnacle moments that stick out over the course of your playing or coaching career so far?
Yeah, so from a player standpoint, I mean, every player, it's the first time you step on the field, you know, and you get in the game, the butterflies and that you once you have that experience, you can never get it back. That was probably the highlight. It was the first time I stepped on the field in a game at Providence. It was just an amazing experience. But then from a coaching standpoint and as a parent, being able to coach my own kids has been very, very fun. I have a daughter who's a freshman at Howard who will be playing there when they get their season back. And I have a son who's a freshman at McNamara who also plays. But they've been playing since they've been about 4 or 5 years old. So they kind of grew up with the game. They're probably better at it than I ever would be. But coaching them has been fun. Introducing them to the game and watching their growth has just been amazing.
That's such a interesting point of view. I know that first game, those butterflies you're talking about, and I don't quite know having my own kids yet, but coaching has just been such a unique experience. Can you share a little bit more what it means to be a parent and coaching your kids and how you empower them to be successful with the sport that I'm assuming they love if they're playing it in college?
Right. Yeah. I mean, my philosophy is with any of my players, it's, you know, I want them to be the very best person that they can be. And that's regardless if they're my own kid or a kid on the team. is I want them to be successful, not only on the field, because the whistle stops for us all at some point. It's taking the lessons that we gather through the game to apply to life that'll help make you successful. So I'll share a quick story with you is, with COVID and everything, we're doing small team workouts. And one of our seniors now had made a comment at practice or in our group sessions. She said, "Hey, Coach AB, you've kind of mellowed out." I said, "It's because you've gotten better over the years." She said, "Yeah, I remember when you pushed me really hard as a freshman because you told me I was going to be good." And I sat back and I said, "Well, are you good?" She said, "Gotten a lot better since freshman year." So it's those winnable moments that you have with your teammates, or with your team that you really look forward to, whether it's as a parent or the like. So I think my kids had it a little bit tougher being a coach's kid. The one thing that we've instituted is we never talk about the game once it's over. It's rearview mirror, short-term memory. We go on with life because at the end of the day, it is just that. It's just a game.
I think that's so important. You talked about a few things, those winnable moments, being able to help young athletes recognize what the positive opportunity is in the situation. We were speaking with one of Notre Dame's head coach or assistant coaches, Ryan Wellner, last week. Yep. He said the same thing about producing leaders. Identify those coachable moments. And that's so big to say that, as well as just it's in the rearview mirror. You don't need to worry about the past. Let's move forward. And speaking about moving forward, AB, what does leadership mean to you?
Yeah, leadership is, it's kind of funny. At work, we're taking a leadership course, and we're doing a deep dive into our own leadership philosophy. And some of it is just coming up with lessons that you've already learned. Leadership's not easy. It's a choice, and it's hard work. That's really what it is. It's not being in charge. It's leading people. And there's a big difference from that. You have a lot of people who are in charge, but are they true leaders? I always look at the players that, whether it's a freshman or whatever, the kids that stay after practice and pick up the balls, the kids that take the extra reps after practice, that are focused and dialed in throughout. The game has to be fun, but, part of it has to be focused. So with leadership, I think it's the same. You have to have that focus. You have to have that drive, and it's not going to be easy. If you're going into it for a popularity contest, you're never going to lead people. You're going to be the fun person that everybody wants to be around, but you never get anywhere. That's really the crux of leadership. And then focusing on the mission. What are your goals that you're trying to accomplish? I think if you put the mission and then your people together, you're going to be successful at whatever you do in advancing your goal. And I'm advancing, maybe I'm not articulated this probably, but moving things in the direction that you want them to go to the ends that you're looking for. So
it sounds like really the focus is having a mission and then also doing the work. When you do the work personally, you're setting the example, and those around you can come together and you accomplish the team result.
Absolutely. It's funny because I do some speeches, at schools I did my kids' career day all the time. And that was kind of fun. And I always said to the kids, I said, if anybody could tell me that there's any job out here that you do and you do it by yourself, and you don't need anybody else, I'll give you $20. And, my oldest is now in college and my youngest is now a freshman. Never had a kid that could come up with a job. You always have somebody else that you're working with in a team. So if you have that mentality and you take the lessons that you learn from the games, and it doesn't necessarily need to be lacrosse, but any sport, even some of the singular sports, whether it's tennis or wrestling or some of these other things, you need people that you have to practice with. You can't get good just by doing the moves yourself. So if you take the lessons that you learn from whatever athletic pursuit it is and you apply it to whatever it is in life, you're going to be ridiculously successful and do very well for yourself.
I think that's the biggest thing, is recognizing those lessons and putting it into your own life. For yourself, what are some of the lessons you've picked up from lacrosse and how have they impacted your life?
The biggest one is hard work and diligence. I'll admit I was probably not the best player to ever play for Providence College. I think Jared Newman and there are a few other people there. The level that they're playing at is far better than I'd ever do. Even though we like to say that we were the foundation for it, but hey, those guys are just really good. But it's putting in the work. And I say this, I brought up Jared Newen, is I was at Providence. Every year I try to get up there, visit, and just see the campus and see what's going on. One year I was up there and I'd met him through, some of the contacts that I usually go up there and chat with. And it's a 90-degree day out in Rhode Island, which is unusual. It's 100% humidity. And it's at lunchtime. He's out there taking shots. He has a bucket of balls and he's just shooting. And seeing people put in the hard work like that, it's amazing. So having the wherewithal to kind of, for me, I knew I wasn't going to be a good player, but I had to work hard to get on the field. And Mike, we say this with our team every day, is get better every day. I know it sounds cliche, but you have to get better every day. There's always something small that you can pick up and improve upon. We're not looking in our program for kids to make these huge jumps in a very short period of time. It's small incremental successes that you have every day. If it's picking up the skill of picking up a ground ball, if it's improving your shooting, it really, whatever the skill is that we're trying to teach or get across, if they build those skills over time, you're going to be very good at this game. And it's similar to my philosophy on life: is small wins to get big return at the end of the day.
And I think that goes back to the leadership as well. If you have that mission that you're striving for, you can put together an action plan of those small wins that compound upon each other and ultimately take you to the top, which takes hard work. And I'm glad you shared that, AB, with us, because I can imagine, just thinking of your daughter for a moment, playing at the highest level for lacrosse. Did you recognize a point where she just decided to flip a switch and say, hey, I'm going to play D1 lacrosse? Or how did you all as a family make that decision, or how did she make that choice?
Yeah, so it's funny that you bring that up. I always tell my kids, and it's funny, I tell kids, any kid that I coach, I'm not out here, I've lived my career. And, I kind of touched on this early on. The whistle stops. We all have to stop playing because our bodies break down, circumstances break down. We have to be mentally prepared for that moment. And hopefully it's on our own terms. It's not blown out a knee, or, you just the opportunities aren't there. So when she was playing club ball in both high school, I always wanted to make sure she was playing for herself. And both my kids, I tell them, I played my career. I want to sit back and watch you guys achieve your goals in playing. If it's, dancing, have at it. I want to see you dance. If it's playing the violin, do whatever. If it's being a CPA, if it's going to law school, if it's going in the military, I want to see you succeed at what your things are. But you have to make the decision to make the choice to play the game. Me personally, probably shouldn't say this now, but I think the Division III motto of going and playing in college is probably a great Division II, Division III model is probably a really good model, because you still have a little bit of time there to build. And I tell students this all the time: the Division I level, it's a full-time job. Like, you're not going to have the normal quote unquote college experience because you're dedicated to your craft. Not to say you can't do it at the Division II, III level, but it's a little bit different. From that respect, from what I've seen. So like, to get back to the original question, it was her choice. She said, Dad, I want to play Division I college. I said, okay, I'll support you in whatever you do. We did a lot of road trips with her club team, Southern Maryland Revolution. And, we're up and down the Eastern Seaboard and playing in the tournaments and that stuff. But aside from that, it was hanging out with her friends, like the group of girls that she enjoyed playing with, and just getting out there and doing whatever. My son right now, he's very much focused on football. That's his sport that he's working hard at right now, and hopefully he picks up lacrosse when their season kicks up again. But they've kind of flipped things here, where football is going first still for our season. So we'll see what happens when it gets around the lacrosse period. But he says he's going to play the long pole. We'll see how that goes. Wouldn't be bad to see him follow in his dad's footsteps, but hey, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, we always love hearing some more fellow long poles and defensemen out there. So hope he follows in the footsteps. And one thing you said about your daughter, you said spending a lot of time with her friends. are they all playing Division I, or did she have a group that just pushed each other? Or how did those friendships impact your daughter and how you were interacting with everyone?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. The club team were all the girls, basically all the same girls that came up through our youth program from, the U8 level all the way up through the U15 level. They all played at rival high schools, but they kind of got back together for the club summer league. Two of the girls are playing at Washington Jeff in Western Pennsylvania. We have another young lady that's at Everett that's playing. So they kind of dispersed all around. We have players, some of the players that she came up with youth are at the various programs with like Leah Willis. We have Ali Zeta down at VCU. We have Madison Moat at Notre Dame. Who else? We have Hannah Lynn that's at Mercer. I have just rattling off the names right now of how many girls that have come through the program, and I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch of them. But during that small period of time, just a bunch of girls that have come through both the rec program and the club program that have just gone on and are still playing. So even those that aren't playing are just, they're top of their class at whatever they do academically. They're in the community doing community service. It's all the things that, as a coach, you want to see your team doing. So it's kind of neat watching those experiences.
Oh, that puts the biggest smile on my face. I just hope to be able to see that down the road if that happened. Is there anything that you were doing strategically to make sure that all the girls were being successful and being the top of their class and doing what they were doing? Or is it just a testament of hard work and the atmosphere that you were all putting yourself in? What do you attest to that success?
I attest to the kids and the families. It's funny. My daughter went to the Duke Lacrosse camp, and my son and I ran into. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he's a 7-footer. He was like #1 draft pick in the country there, and it was his freshman year at Duke. He did like 1 year and left. Yeah, his name will come to me. This is what happens when you get old. But we ran into him, and I said, "Hey, what's Coach K's biggest philosophy?" And he goes, "Books before ball, sir. Books before ball." And I said to my son, he was probably like 8 at the time. I said, "Did you hear what he said?" And that's always been our philosophy in our rec league here is, you got to get your grades first. You can play a great game and all that type of stuff, but if you don't have the education, you're kind of limiting yourself to the avenues of where you can go in life. So the families are education first, which has been great. The kids in our program have always put education. And even in our current situation now, our head coach is one of the teachers at the school. And it's very different because it's okay. You have a math tutor at practice time. Don't come to practice. Let's get the grades right first, and let's worry about athletics second. Because clearly the grades will carry you a lot further in life than sports. So we try and keep that emphasis up.
I was listening to some podcast. I don't remember offhand, but it was a Stanford professor talking about CEOs or angel investments that he ultimately makes. And he said he looks for leaders that are able to prioritize, because a leader has so many decisions that they have to make, and there's just so much time that you have in a day. You mentioned education is something that all players need to prioritize. What are some of the other things that the youth can be doing right now, considering COVID and even in a non-COVID situation, so that they can be the best versions of themselves?
Yeah, wall ball. I mean, wall ball is a great way to improve your skills. If you can't find a wall, it's tough now if you don't have a toss back or space that you can do it. But, we had a lot of dads that were baseball guys that were coaching whose daughters were playing, said, "Dad, put a baseball glove on and throw the ball to them," until you can get your skill up to play lacrosse. But the more that they can get their hands on the stick and just breaking down the fundamentals is just so important. If you have a net, being able to shoot and take lots of reps. Ground balls, as you know, in this game are critical to the success. You win more ground balls than the other team, you probably have a pretty good shot at winning a game. And just doing the little things, the little fundamental things that you can do to improve your game. And as I was saying before, it's small incremental growth. You don't need to go from here to here overnight. You go here and then you take the next step and you build on it and build on it. So, but wall ball is the cure all for anything in my book. And I'm a big proponent of it. The more you throw it up against that wall, the better off you're going to be.
I think that it's just the time that you have the stick in your hand, the more you put your time, hard work, energy towards something, like you said, the incremental steps get you closer to that end result. I know before we started this live, we were talking a little bit about the growth of the game in general. And it sounds like that's something that you're passionate and focused on. Can you share and elaborate a little bit more about what you're focused on right now, AB?
Yeah, it's really getting out there in, particularly for me, having kids see that there's a future in this game for them. For a long time, particularly when I was at Providence, there were like a handful of guys that looked like me playing the sport. Whereas now it's grown a lot more. I still think there has some room to grow, but I love seeing the stories of guys like Kyle Harrison and, and other guys out there that are just, the sport's blowing up. I think a big perspective is getting the game in places where it hasn't been in the past. When I was playing the game, it was Long Island versus the world, or upstate New York versus the world. You had a couple kids that came out of some random places like Chicago, maybe a kid in North Carolina who moved around a little bit. The parents their jobs had transitioned and you moved a little bit. And then the Mid-Atlantic, obviously, you had a lot of kids that played out of there. But now you're looking at the rosters and you have kids from Washington State, California, Arizona, Texas, North Carolina, Michigan, Ohio. Like, these places are becoming hotbeds of lacrosse, and it's great seeing that, that it's becoming a less regionalized sport and a more national sport for everybody to get out there and play. So it's been fun watching that growth. I like working with the youth. Any chance I can get to help out, at the youth level, I'm always about that. I feel you have to give back to the game. You get so much from it. You have to give back, and it's just part of the game. From its origins, it's you get something from it, but there's so much more you can give back. For me, it's being able to hopefully impact some kid's life, to think that, hey, I can be successful. I can go on and play in college. And if they don't, that's great. The fact that they're going to college, or getting into a trade or joining the military or whatever, that's what's more important than anything else, is that they're setting themselves up. And they have the skills because they've built through their hard work of the game to learn and achieve. So, I think a lot of kids will learn from their failures in this game, and you're not going to win every game. If you are, have at it. That's a fantastic thing. But the more losses that you have, or the more things that you can learn from the trying moments on the field, the better off that you're going to be down the road.
Absolutely. One of the quotes that I like is, "Fail stands for first attempt in learning." We always have an opportunity to become better, especially if we fail or we have a loss. As long as we learn something from that, it allows us to move forward. And that final whistle is going to blow for all of us at one point throughout our life. And if we can make sure that we took some sort of skills or attitude or whatever it may be from the game and move it forward, it sounds like that's really been the success that you've seen, AB. And it sounds like you continue to affect a lot of people. I know Leah Willis just had nothing but great things to say about you. She said, you have to get AB on this. He's the one who inspired me. And it's awesome to hear that we continue to see more people playing the game all over the country, no matter what they look like, where they come from. They have the ability to be successful. I saw a comment, it looked like it was from Michael Smith or Coach Smith. He said that that he was on and listening.
That's my butt. Mike is one of the other assistant coaches at McNamara, and we crack up because we're like oil and water sometimes. But I love that guy to death, man. He cracks me up. So yeah, thanks, Mike, for the shout out there.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to share this with your community. AB, is there anything that we can do to partner with you on anything or help with your mission right now?
No, I think that the biggest thing is keep the message going, Ryan. I mean, it's the more people you can get on, and just having people from all walks of life be involved with the Institute, and focusing on really building good, strong leaders for tomorrow. I know that my time has passed, and as I get older, the further and further away I get, or closer I get to retirement, that the less impact you have. But I'm at a stage now where you want to be generative, where you want to leave the game a little bit better than what you found it. So anything that you can do to help promote the game and keep people at the forefront of it, of building strong leaders, both on and off the field, because it's important. I would just encourage you to do that. It's been fun watching the game over several years develop and grow.
I can promise you I will continue to do this, and I'm excited to see how this game develops and grows, and we'll continue to see what type of leaders we ultimately impact, and we'll see where this game has. Thank you so much, AB. I can't share how gracious I am for having you join our community today. I hope you have a wonderful evening.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you having me on.